The ghetto is a plantation. Every major city in America that has a huge black population, be it Detroit, Chicago, be it Harlem, St. Louis, you will find that the business apparatus is usually controlled by men of other ethnicities. Korean, Chinese, Arabs, Mexicans, white people. The black man does not have ownership share of businesses in his own community. A plantation during the days of slavery consisted primarily of black women, black children, due to the fact that more women are born than men, and women are the ones who bear the children. So mathematically, you will have more women and children than men. Today, the ghetto is controlled by women and children. The book of Isaiah in chapter 3 talks about they will be oppressed by children. The daughters of Zion will be destroyed because of their wickedness and their pride. Chapter 4, they're going to say, on that day, 7 women going to cling on to one man to take away their shame. We living in those days right now. But black men, the American Negro men, we have to start competing with these foreigners in our own community. We must corner the markets on all of these businesses that once used to be owned. I remember in the 80s, most of these businesses was controlled by and owned by black people. The gas stations, the corner stores, the restaurants, everything. It wasn't until I think the early 90s when I started seeing Arabs popping up. And usually the Arabs, real on record, the Arabs start popping up after the death of Elijah Muhammad in 1975. The Nation of Islam sold all of their grocery stores to Arabs, all of their bakeries, restaurants. They just sold everything to Arabs, probably because they wanted to get the favor of the Sunni Islam, because the Nation of Islam adopted Sunni Islam. They abandoned the teacher. Farrakhan and Wardeen Muhammad gave up all the teaching, sold all of the properties all over America, New Jersey, New York, Chicago, Detroit. They sold all of our institutions to the Arabs. They sold the plane, they sold the land development company, all the properties. Farrakhan gave it all away. So that kind of started it. And then it started also when the Dr. King convinced Lyndon Johnson to sign the Civil Rights Act. So a lot of black people started to go to corporate America, thought they was going to get salvation, thought they was going to get hired by white corporate America. And then when Dr. King got killed, a lot of the riots that happened in Chicago and LA, all over America, it was black people burning down their own businesses. So from the Civil Rights era up until when Elijah Muhammad died, we lost thousands of businesses. And then from the 80s to the 90s, the last remaining businesses was sold to Arabs, Chinese. So now the black man have absolutely very little market share in our own communities. I remember there was a hair product company called South Sheen, headquartered in Chicago. It was a manufacturing company that created black women's hair products, particularly hair relaxers. This was before the black women used to get weaves. They used to use straightening combs and perms, relaxers to get their hair straight. But South Sheen was sold in 1998 to L'Oreal. And when they sold that company, they closed that factory and stopped, fired all those black people. They used to work on the South Side creating those hair products. So now the beauty industry, hair product industry is totally controlled by Koreans. The black people don't have much of anything right now. And the black women, usually, who is living in this Section 8 housing, government housing, the prerequisite, the requirement for them to get this assistance is to be uneducated and poor. So that perpetuates us in poverty, because they don't seek a higher standard of living. They don't seek a better way of life. They don't even see themselves as actually having more. They just want to live in this poverty forever because they get rewarded. Just like on the plantation, you get to live in housing for free. As long as you go on that plantation and work, you get free food, the scraps, and you get to have a house to live in. The back house. This is nothing but another plantation. But the so-called black man, another problem, we don't have too many institutions set up to finance the younger generations. The older generation of Negroes does not have a way to put money to incubate the ideas of the younger generation of American Negroes. So we're stuck trying to go to the white institutions, the white banks, the white-owned banks, the Asian-owned banks, the East Indian, whatever owned bank, and they're going to tell you you're denied. I remember in the 90s there was more black banks, black-owned banks, than it is today. It's like gradually, every decade, you see less and less growth in the Negro black community. You see more growth with every other group. And we're just stuck in this perpetual sense of hopelessness. And if you're a so-called black man, you feel that there is absolutely no way for you to actually make it other than your own efforts. There was nobody interested in your elevation. Similar to how in Chicago we got a black mayor, Brandon Johnson. He seems to be solely interested in the elevation of the migrant population. He seems to be interested in giving them everything they need to flourish and succeed. But there is nobody set up thinking about the elevation of the children of the American Negro, the slaves, the descendants of the so-called slaves. Not even the affluent Negroes. They're not even concerned with the future. They just seems to die off and leave no legacy whatsoever. But yeah, these issues must be addressed. You know, the Negro male must come together and formulate, at least, not even necessarily formulate a plan to save the future and invest in the future, but just change your perception. Because a lot of these old Negroes, they look at the younger generation as the problem. They look at their own future, their own offspring as the problem. And when you start seeing your own offspring as the problem, you're setting yourself up for self-annihilation and genocide. We see how the American black women was deceived into exterminating 50 million of their own babies. They was deceived into seeking salvation from their former oppressor. I was listening to the radio, the news, this woman named Sade Robinson, a divester, ghetto gagger. She went on a date, the first date with this white man in Wisconsin. And they say he chopped her body up. And yesterday, one of her arms just rolled up on the shores of Waukegan, which is North Illinois, north of Chicago. Her body parts are still rolling up. It's in the river floating around. You don't know if the fish ate those body parts, what. But these black women have been totally turned against their own people. And I don't think there's nothing that can be done about it. But these American Negro men must come together and formulate strategies to preserve the future, because there's nobody else willing to assist in that manner.